No
All
intro?
right. No, I'm skipping the intro.
Oh.
Well, you know what? Welcome to Texans Unfiltered. James is here somewhere. He's hiding. I'm just throwing away the intro. Like right now, we need a new intro. I've asked a couple of weeks back. I'll continue to ask. If you are good at making those intros, send me a message. Let me send me a message on Twitter. It's John A. Wade with the number 3. Of course, we want to compensate y'all. We're not looking for anything free, but we need an intro. We need a better intro, one that more fits the times. Granted, right now, I don't know if anything's going to fit this current team because
Well,
the way Nick is going, I mean, the whole roster is going to be overhauled here by the end of next week.
I mean, just put Deshaun as the main attraction. What's wrong with that?
Oh man,
What's wrong with
what's
that?
wrong with that? Well, do we have to talk about football? I mean, did you watch the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? That was pretty good.
Oh, no, that was really good. Yeah, I
That was
enjoyed
pretty
that.
good.
I enjoyed
We,
that. I enjoyed WandaVision. Are we live?
we are live. We are totally live.
Oh, there's the comments. I couldn't see him for a second there. I'm like a visitor, I guess. I don't have the aspect of being able to like click and add the best comments and all that stuff. But no, Falcon Winter Soldier was great. WandaVision was awesome. They just pushed back Black Widow to July 9th today, and it'll be out on
July
Disney
27th,
Plus.
Disney
I think it
Plus.
was I thought it was July 9th.
Oh, July 9th. Okay. I could be completely wrong here. Um, yeah. I mean, well, and then the Rockets are trash. I mean, you could go a good 15 minutes about just gloating on that, right? The Rockets are
Yeah,
absolute trash.
I mean they won a game, so you can't say they're too bad now, right? After the 21. So, nah, I'm not going to do that. As soon as I do that, Cody gets in the slack and lets these emotions go. That's kicking a horse while or whatever they say, whatever it is, while they're down. I'm not going to do that. The Rockets fans have been through enough. Um, there's nothing you could do. There's nothing you could do. It
At
is
this
what it
point,
is.
I was actually disappointed that we won because it just needs to be full on tank. Like get in the lottery. Granted, I think that's pretty much a given at this point. Like, don't even win. Like, don't win. We need somehow to get a good player because yeah, they're it's just a bad situation. And if we talk about it, maybe Cody would appear to kind of yell at us and add some drama, kind of help us avoid the topic that I really don't want to talk about.
Well, we're going to talk about it.
I was tipped off last week. I was so sick. That's why there was not a show last week. I'm like, I'm not talking about this. I don't care. Like I did not want to go into it. It was too early, and I am now come around to facing the facts that we're going to have to talk about it. How can you talk about the Texans without talking about it?
So let's start with it. Let's start with it because I think that in 2021, there's a line for everything. There's a line for everything. You can't cross the line. You can't say your opinion without being canceled. You can't state facts without somebody trying to rebuttal your facts. In 2021, you cannot say what you think and it just be accepted or looked at as a conversation piece or anything like that. Whatever you say, you're either offending a certain group or whatever. You're just pissing off people, right? I went and saw Dave Chappelle last week in Austin, and it was awesome. But as a lot of people know, if you're a Chappelle fan, which I'm a diehard fan, he's had this battle with the transgender community for about 5 years now. It's a thing. But Dave Chappelle kind of makes fun of everybody. You can catch a slug if you're in the gay community, straight community, women, men, white men, black men, Hispanics, Asians, doesn't matter. You're going to catch a stray from Dave Chappelle, no matter where you are, who you are, what culture you are, all of that stuff. You're going to catch one. And he was talking about transgenders, and he actually had a surprise show in San Francisco that he had that he didn't realize he was going to do. He just woke up and did it. And he had this friend that was a transgender comic, and he had her opening for him. And she sucked. She was awful. He roasted her. It was just a terrible, terrible thing. And Eventually, though, she caught her groove after he came on, and they became, really, really, really good friends. And then the transgenders community came after Dave Chappelle, and she stood up for him on one tweet and said something about how great he's been to her and how he's always seen her as a person and never anything else. And they killed her online for it. That next day, that she jumped off a building and killed herself. Her own community bashed her so badly for defending somebody who has treated her like a human being that she decided to kill herself. Dave Chappelle lost one of his better friends because her own community could not support her own ideas and opinions. That is what the world has turned to. And in this episode, we are going to have hard conversations that are just opinions. There's no facts about it. There's nothing else. It's just an opinion based. I don't know anything more than what you guys know. Maybe a little bit because I've done some digging and I've talked to some people, not like on the Deshaun side. I haven't talked to anybody. I haven't talked to Brian. I haven't talked to David. I haven't talked to Quincy. I did send Quincy an email to try to get Tyrod Taylor on the show, but I have not spoken to anybody about this. But I have reached out to some masseuses who have worked with Deshaun in the past, have been regulars with Deshaun, so I kind of have their idea. But I want to preface this by saying that these are opinions. We're allowed to have them. They are not up for debate. My opinion is my opinion. John's opinion is John's opinion. If you don't like it, kick rocks. That's all there is to it. Or just enjoy the good conversation and the debate about it and listen to two different sides of the argument. John, anything you want to add before we start to have that conversation?
Not that I'm exactly thrilled to have it. Got to also preface that neither me nor James are lawyers in any form or fashion. We get fed a lot of bullshit from all directions sometimes because people sometimes just want to put that out there. I guess I don't really know why. Honestly, we love y'all, so apparently people think that we know something. I guess I don't know. So we'll have our conversation. I've got a feeling that we may come down on different sides. We may even get mad at each other. End of the day, we're still going to be bros. End of the day, these are our own opinions, and that's all they really are.
Yeah, and I'm going to also say this: sexual assault, rape, sexual misconduct of any of a female or a male or anybody else is never to be tolerated. Never should be okay. I don't give a shit who you are, what your stature is, what you've done for a city. It is never okay for anybody to sexually assault anybody. It's not okay, no matter what. So I want to make sure that we say that, because what I'm going to say will likely piss off a lot of people, and that's fine. I'm here to take that. It's my opinion, so that's okay. But I guess we start now. Do we start now?
Well, Pat just texted me saying he's about to hop on. So if we start now, he'll probably interrupt.
Tell him to start. Tell him to come on in 20 minutes when we're done with this.
You know what? We can make him just sit in the waiting room.
Yeah, just tell him that we're going to have this conversation, and then we'll have the conversation that he wants to have about Deshaun. All right. Okay. So I say this to say that I am sensitive to people who have had sexual assault, rape, any sexual misconduct. I feel sorry for you. I have a daughter. These types of situations. My daughter idolizes Deshaun Watson. She calls him Bae. She's one of his biggest cheerleaders. She loves Deshaun. And this sucked for her. But sexual misconduct and all of that, it's awful. It's just terrible, terrible, terrible. But other parts of this story are extremely terrible, terrible, terrible. So in case you've been living under a rock for the last, I think, 7 days. Yeah, about 7 days. Came out late Tuesday night. And, everybody was kind of shocked. We'll get into the theatrics of the attorney representing the plaintiffs, because I do think that's part of the story that should also be discussed. But Deshaun Watson, as of tonight, has 16 civil suits filed against him for sexual misconduct with masseuses he has contacted. Actually, I'm going to say this: supposedly contacted through IG for a massage. These are not facts yet. These are just allegations. So they can say that's how they were contacted. They can say all sorts of things. To be honest with you, we don't really know the truth of it yet. We do know that one of them has already basically been shot down completely, and that one is pretty much ruled out at this point, given that what Brian did today. But so we say that so you guys have an understanding and a kind of a backstory on what brought us to the conversation today with everything that is going on with Deshaun Watson. Okay, it is awful. Deshaun is definitely at fault for quite a bit of things. And I think I'll probably stop there, John, and I'll let you talk a little bit before I start to give my opinion and thoughts on everything else.
I'm at the point where, this does not, it doesn't look good for Deshaun. Like, there's no if and or buts around it. Like, even best case scenario for Deshaun did some sketchy shit. He really did. Going on Instagram, pulling these women in for massages or whatnot. And I'd even argue with what Brian put out, that saying that the one was consensual, she was asking for money just to go away. I would even argue at that point, it's kind of similar that, you've been in management, I've been in management, we've had those HR talks. There is absolutely no way that a manager and an employee can have a relationship. Somebody has to leave their position because it's always on unequal footing because of power dynamics. I would say in his case, as a famous person, like, it's very, very similar. He's a one-on-one situation, and if he comes on to somebody, he puts them in a bad spot. Whether or not he thinks it's consensual, whether or not he even realizes he's doing something wrong, I would actually go there. And honestly, with this many, to me, like, I could be completely wrong. I'm not a lawyer, and I think that we have to kind of wait for more stuff to come out. But when there's 20 women, who's to say that 20 women's opinions are any less valid than the one guy? And it's always something in the middle. It is always something in the middle. But this is, with this situation and the way that it is, like, that middle is not good. And if he's going in and he's having, even if it's consensual relationships with some masseuses, he's going into that opinion that he's going to hook up with a masseuse, or that's on the table, that it's not a heat of the moment, it's not a passionate thing. Like, that's something that's already out there and as an opinion for him. And I'm saying this almost fighting back emotions because I don't want this to be true. Like, I read that article that came out from San Francisco that was saying that we don't want it to be true because Deshaun is supposed to be a good guy. He's supposed to be a good guy. That's what we all hope. That's what we've all seen. But we don't know him. And it's just such a horrible, messed up situation, top to bottom. Deshaun should have never put himself in a position where he could be accused of any of this. He never should have done that. And I know you've got a lot of points out there that I'm going to let you discuss, and I don't want to shoot them down before you get a chance to say them. But ultimately, this comes down to, regardless of anything, Deshaun should have never put himself in this situation.
I agree 100%. And I think that's the one part that really bothers me the most. Obviously, yes, the sexual assault and all of that really bothers me as well. But the fact that he has these resources, he has his people, he has the ability to maneuver through not having to use Instagram for masseuses. Now, we don't know that they were masseuses. Yes, to Joris's point, we don't know if they were masseuses. We don't know the construct of the conversation. We don't know what was agreed upon. We don't know any of this stuff. Technology will be probably the biggest part in this entire case. We will have a true understanding because there is a paper trail for everything. You can undelete, you can unsend a message, but the other person can still see it. Screenshots, screen recordings. There's just so many different things that go into it. I will say this, though, and a lot of you, there's already some of you in the comments. For every person that believes the women, and I'm not saying the women aren't wrong, the women could definitely have a case, and this definitely could have happened. But for all of you that say, why would 22 women do this? Why can't the one person also be telling the truth. If you can justify saying that 22 people are coming together and lying, why can't the one person also receive that same benefit of the doubt? Okay, they're the same thing. So you can't sit here and tell me 22 people, it's guaranteed, too bad, there's nothing you can do. What about the women? You have to have, if you're going to do that, you have to be willing to have the conversation about the person who's also being accused. Because as of right now, none of it is facts. So you can't have the conversation saying this side, that side. You can't. You can have your opinion, and I can have mine, and they can be different. And that's okay. But at the end of the day, I've seen all the stats. I've read all of them, 95%. There's still 5%. Do you know how big this world is? Do you know how many times these cases come up? Like there's so many other parts of this that people can pull from. You can make a statistic for anything. It doesn't mean that that's always the case. So what I'm trying to say is, for everybody that says the women are telling the truth, you have to listen to the people that believe that Deshaun is telling the truth as well. Now, I'll say this. I believe that this is it's extortion. It's truly what I believe. And I'm not trying to dismiss anybody, but that's what I believe. I believe a lot of that because of the lawyer, him going to David and Brian in February and wanting to settle out of court. But then when he submits all these case filings, he says that it's not about money and he's filing for the minimum. If that was the case, then why are you filing for the minimum? And why did you try to settle out of court beforehand? Those two don't coincide for me, and I don't understand it. There's just other parts of it. He doesn't know who Cal McNair is. You do. You know exactly who Cal McNair is. You know who Bob is because you literally posted a billboard trying to convince them to draft Johnny Manziel. So you're a fan. You're not just some lawyer. You're a fan of the team to the point to where you spent $22,000 to post a billboard wanting Johnny Manziel drafted. Thank God they didn't listen to you, but you had that. I think also with the accusations and today with Rusty Hardin and Brian Burney, look, Brian did a signed affidavit. So here's what a lot of people are they're like, oh, Brian can say what he wants. He can do it. He has a signed affidavit. It becomes a legal document in court that can be used as perjury. He's basically committing perjury if he is lying in this signed affidavit. So if he's lying, he's going to jail. Brian has kids and a wife. Why would he go down that path? For what? He's obviously had that conversation, and he was able to detail it to a T. He was even able to pick out the specific case filing tied to this individual. So he has a recollection of the conversation. So what I think it is I do think it's extortion. I do think that there is a group aspect to this. I think everybody saw an opportunity to get rich. I think when the lawyer turned this into a social media post and spread the word and sent it out to outlets and did everything he could, that to me screams attention tied to the fact that all his posts are about him. They're not even about the women. Yeah, he throws a sentence one or two times in where he says it's very brave for a woman to do it, and agreed, 100%. It is an extremely brave thing for a woman to do. But then he rattles on for a paragraph and a half about himself. I just can't get behind the fact that this guy, this lawyer, Tony Busby, is representing these women for the betterment of the world. I can't.
You know,
and if he wasn't black, let me say this last thing and then I'll let you. If he was not black, this would not be a story as big as it is now. We did not have any of this the way that we are now when Ben went through it. Ben raped a woman and is playing in the league. So go ahead, John.
There's a difference.
Okay.
There's a big difference there. It's the 20 plus at this time. And that's the issue. And ultimately, I don't know who's telling the truth. It's like, how did Deshaun put himself in a situation where he could be accused by 20 women? And there's always levels of understanding that as men, we probably can't get. There's levels of when there's a reason why every one of those briefs talked about the power dynamics. So it's everything you just said. Like, I get where you're coming from. And honestly, one of the biggest problems is the lawyer that the women are using. He's an asshole. Other lawyers even call him an asshole. When I texted a lawyer friend, he said, hey, assholes get legit cases too. The guy's tactics, very, very strange. What he should have done is, I hate to quote somebody, but any lawyer worth their salt has a handful of media they can cultivate relationships. When you got a banger, you file a very fact-specific complaint and tip them off that it's filed. It's a public record at that point, and they can run with it. Plus, you give them a scoop, other outlets will pick it up after, and they'll be appreciative and owe you. And yet low key. So yes, that is an absolute concern. Absolute concern. That lawyer is an asshole. That lawyer is an idiot. But 2022, I've lost count of how many women. That's the issue. That is absolutely the issue. Because it's just at that point, it's what's the thing out there about
John,
are you an asshole if 5 people call you an asshole?
That's
you
what
have
I'm
to
saying.
wait till it's proven guilty. And I hate to say it, what's the difference between believing 1 versus 22? 22. There's more versus 1. And there's levels of belief. There's absolute levels of belief. Like, there's still, like, Deshaun absolutely can believe he did nothing wrong. He can believe that he seduced every single woman, that it was always consensual. He can absolutely believe that in his heart. But there is a power dynamic there that exists. There absolutely does. And he shouldn't have been in that situation. He just shouldn't have been in that situation.
I agree.
And to say, and to just quickly address it before and just to kind of address, like, no, the Texans are not behind this. Cal McNair, we were giving him, he's Tommy Boy. We already know he's a dumbass. There's no way he'd be able to come up with a conspiracy like this.
This is too big of a conspiracy, and it would contain so much. So there'd be so many paths to be able to actually find out that the Texans are behind this. There's no way, if that's the case, that they walk away from this crystal clear. There's just no way. They can't. There's just it's impossible. So that narrative needs to die. That's like the dumbest narrative I've ever heard in my life. One, the Texans ruin his trade value. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? They want him on the team. This doesn't help. This doesn't make it any easier. Let's say Deshaun did none of this. You think he still wants to be in Houston where this is tied to his name forever? No. So there's no way that any of that is the case. But in this culture, we've seen also, like, Future flies out an IG model 3 or 4 times a week to fuck them. Nobody ever gives a shit about that.
Well, like, here's the problem.
It's a part of the culture.
Done that. Deshaun should have done that.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did.
Out there that he could have, but these are
maybe he did.
Masseuses, like estheticians. Like, why didn't he just go with the ones who were already game for it? Like, there's plenty of them out there.
But how do we know that he didn't? I guess is my point. How do we know that now all of a sudden they've all had consensual sex? Like, they're saying, like, Vanessa Richardson came out and said there are multiple women that have filed suits with him that have had consensual sex with Deshaun, but they had a problem touching his dick. Are you kidding me? That's a part of having sex. A lot of times the woman touches the dick to do it. This whole thing stinks, dude. It's insane to me.
It is absolutely insane. I absolutely agree with you. It's completely and totally agree that it is absolutely insane. But that kind of goes back towards it. Like when their defense is, oh, I didn't know her, and now it's changed from I didn't know her to, well, I knew her, but she was consensual. Like that's a pretty quick turnaround already.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, we're not going to know for a long time. This is going to be
I can't wait for this 30 for 30.
If it
Like,
becomes one.
I'm sick to my stomach about this, but it's going to be a documentary of some sort at some point.
Yeah, maybe.
It is. It's going to be a documentary.
Either way it goes, whether he's guilty or not guilty, this will be a 30 for 30 no matter what.
Yeah, no doubt.
No matter what. But I will say this. If somehow it is proven that he is not guilty, all 22 women should go to jail. If there's a way to prove it, they should go to jail. And if Deshaun
one
is
thing
guilty,
that I would add on to your question earlier, these 22 women, they more or less have thrown away their lives. Like, this is going to ruin them just as much as it's going to ruin Deshaun.
How? They're all anonymous. Nobody even knows who they are.
It's going to get out.
No, it's not.
It's going to get out. Their names are. They always do. They always do. They always get out. You look at how divided Twitter is. You look how divided people are. This is going to haunt them. Like, this is a pretty big deal for them to come. Like, there is no benefit from this.
We'll see. I mean, Rusty Harden asked for the names, and he wasn't able to get them.
All right, you ready to let Pat on?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's hear Pat poke holes in Jonathan McClain.
Hi.
Hi, Sweet Pea.
Long time no see.
It's been a while. Yeah, that was an interesting segment to sit behind the scenes and watch y'all go crazy about. But I want to touch on one thing before I go on to the next part.
No, get on to all of it, Pat. I want it all. You need everything you put in the Slack today needs to come out today.
Okay. So
wait, what'd I miss?
You should have been in the Slack.
All of it.
Some of us are trying to find a job.
There's a very big majority of these alleged accusers that they're aware of who they are already, that have deleted a lot of their social media accounts suddenly. And so they're onto them. They have a lot of what they feel is factual information on their part that can help exonerate Deshaun on some of the cases. I don't know about all of them. And just from I've read every single case file that's been submitted, or court filing that's been submitted. And, a lot of people keep on asking, why do they all seem the same? Like, why are they all the same? And that's just, I don't know if y'all mentioned this earlier, I might have missed it, but that's Busby's tactic to develop a pattern, right? To make Deshaun look like a creature of habit. And that this is, he's doing this with all these girls. A lot of it was consensual. Vanessa's right. A lot of it was consensual. So Cody, I don't know how that works, but they have their evidence. So what they feel is enough. So I'll leave it at that. But I mean, knowing what I know, I can't say too much about it just because of the ongoing investigation and everything like that. But there's a lot to it. And I feel really bad for Deshaun because of, what his name is being, what's being done to his name and what's being done to his reputation. And I hope the truth comes out a lot sooner than later, because I think it's going to shock a lot of people, and there's going to be I hope his name is cleared a lot sooner, and I just don't want this thing to drag on any longer.
Well, it's going to. It's going to take a long time. This is going to. Cody had a good point. Like, there's going to be a lot that out of the if 22 end up being filed, there's a good likelihood that 6, 7, 8 are probably dismissed. 4, 5, or 6 are settled, and then there's 4 or 5 actual trials that happen. But this is going to take a long time. This is just the way that our legal system works. 1, and then 2, when you take into account Deshaun's status and the media and the allegations, it's going to take some time. He's not draft day is. I know you're here to poke a hole in all of John's stuff, but my opinion before you give the facts of your conversation is I don't think he's traded at all. I don't. I do think that teams are interested, and I do think that there are 2 or 3 teams that would give up stuff. I do. I still think they're calling. I think Carolina's calling. I think Carolina's calling. I think Chicago's calling. I think Miami is calling. I do think that all 3 of those teams are in. Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy have a year to figure out what they're going to do at the quarterback position. If there's any team that's more desperate than them in the NFL, please point them out to me because they have to have a quarterback. So I do think that teams are calling, but I do not think that the value is going to be as high as what we were expecting originally. I do think it'll be high, but I don't think it'll be what we thought.
I don't think the value hasn't really been affected because from the conversations I've had and heard of how teams are going about checking on Deshaun, they're still very much interested. As of yesterday morning, there were still phone calls being made to the Texans and to other people to figure out where he wants to go. Obviously, he has his preferred destinations, and that's gonna stay quiet for a while, just for the fact that it could ruin the value. If he was to come out with a list of, I only want to go to these 2 teams, then that gives them all the leverage, and the Texans have nothing. So there are several teams involved. The Eagles are one, the Bears are one, Carolina definitely pushing, Miami is definitely pushing. Will Fuller signed with Miami on the notion and the guarantee from their front office that they would make the ultimate push for Deshaun as it approaches the draft. So it was not a coincidence that Will Fuller ended up signing with Miami. Okay, Will Fuller signed with Miami out of the idea that he was going to get to play with Deshaun again. So right now I would say they're the favorites. And John McClain today said that teams are holding off and they're pulling back. No, they're definitely not.
I was just going to say the reason that Deshaun's trade value doesn't go down is he's a proven commodity at age 25. Like he's a needle in a haystack. You look at QB drafts. You look at how hard it is to find a quarterback, how many misses there are. He's proven his value isn't going to go down. Now, will a team be willing to pull the trigger with these things? That may ultimately be a good question.
Yes.
But we'll see. His value is still there.
Yeah.
Pat, can I ask you a question on something that I kind of heard a murmur of, and see if you've heard anything similar?
Sure.
So I heard the restructure for Laremy was because there are conversations about moving him, and it's easier to do so for a Super Bowl team that needs a left tackle.
That was the thought prior to the restructure. Now that the restructure happens, his cap number actually went up this year. So I don't know if that happens.
I thought it went down this year. Next year it goes up, and the year after it goes up, right?
Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Maybe I haven't really.
I'm pretty sure the way the restructured works was they gave him a guaranteed amount or something like that, but basically spread it out. John, you would probably know better than I would, but I thought his cap hit this year was $990K.
They freed up more cap space, but I think there's more dead cap if they trade him.
Okay.
Let me double check. Let me look that up real quick. Y'all can keep talking because it's going to take me a minute.
Yeah, I just heard that, but go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. The rumor was that if they're gonna move Deshaun, that they were gonna just like completely gut any of the large contracts that were tied to the team, and Laremy was one of them. They would take
So what they did,
$9 million cap hit if they trade him.
How much
is that?
24.
They gave him a higher guarantee. Oh. my original comment was true. They gave him a higher guarantee, but it creates a higher dead cap because they would have to pay it to him because it's guaranteed money. So essentially, if they trade him, it's a $24 million dead cap.
So it sounds like they're kind of, if they did trade him, it sounds like they're buying a first round pick or two.
Probably.
It's just kind of what I thought. Anyways.
Yeah, they're not trading him.
I think that would have already happened before the restructure. I mean, if his name was already getting touted around, but you saw, I mean, with the Chiefs moving on from their two tackles and Trent being out there, there was just too much talent out on the market. I feel that they were never going to get a return on investment for what they feel, he's worth. So, but yeah, I mean, Deshaun's value is still sky high. It's going to be at least 3 firsts, multiple second round picks, multiple starters that would come back. They could very likely tie, Whitney Merciless into the deal just to get that off the books for the next years, to try to help the other teams out and try to help the Texans out. It would be probably the largest trade outside of the Herschel Walker trade in the history of the NFL, as far as what's, assets move back and forth between the two teams. And so I know with talking with people that are very, very much in the know, not only with the team, but on the player side of things, that he's still dug in. He still does not want to be in Houston. He's focused on being elsewhere and, separating himself from this team.
Let me ask you this, Pat. Was there a possibility or a chance that the Texans, had they have put out a statement showing that they will wait for more facts and evidence to these allegations, that they take sexual assault very seriously, but we stand by our quarterback until further, something comes out? Would there have been a chance of reconciliation between the two had they have taken that stance?
I don't know. I think it's definitely possible. But I think in today's society, with how serious these allegations are, that it's very difficult for an organization like the Texans to do something like that. Very privately, they may be doing that. I mean, the team has known since January that this stuff was coming. I know for a fact that they have known since January that this is all coming. So they have not been blindsided by this. So if that conversation has happened privately, I don't know. I would imagine that they have his back to try to show a little bit of good faith to him. So, I mean, it's definitely possible. But publicly, I don't think that would have been a smart move for them. And I don't think Deshaun would expect them to do something. I don't think David would expect them to do something like that either. Yeah.
I just saw that now that I wasn't on Twitter as much, I saw a bunch of conspiracy theories on Reddit, and I was like, oh, that's a very interesting thought process. Reddit's a rabbit hole of information that you can find some pretty crazy stuff. All right. And then
Twitter's a cesspool right now.
Yeah.
Absolute cesspool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say something else, and I totally forgot. I don't know. Okay. What else you got, Pat?
Man, I don't know. I'm trying to keep up with all these signings that Caserio's doing, and I've lost track, but I like a lot of the guys that he's brought in. I like the idea that they brought back, they're bringing back John Weeks. I think that's an important aspect. By all accounts, a lot of these guys that are coming in are very good locker room guys that are going to stand behind Culley and buy into this new regime, this new culture that everybody's, that they're touting over there on Kirby. It would just be nice if it would work for Deshaun Watson. But I'm not holding my breath. I really don't think he plays for this team anymore. And but it's cool to see some of these guys that they're bringing in. I know it's a lot of short-term deals, 1-2 year deals, low money, low guaranteed money. So some of these guys may not even make the final roster, and it's not a big deal. But I like the direction that Caserio is headed, for sure.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I've taken away from the hurricane of moves that we've seen from Caserio, I think we're at a total of 33 now, is competition is going to play a major part in everything that the Texans do moving forward. They have signed 27 linebackers, 92 wide receivers. Like they definitely are. They're building out the camp bodies. Jair, for those that don't follow Jair on Twitter, I'm so shocked that Jair does not have 2,000 or more followers. This guy just gives you content constantly. He's constantly giving you guys content, and it's never seen. You guys should really give Jair a follow on Twitter. The guy is constantly giving you guys good nuggets all throughout the day. But the competition aspect is a big thing for me. I thought it was interesting when I saw Conley mention that Coley was a big reason. David Johnson actually recruited him. I thought that was all very, very telling to me. The locker room they're building, while it is full of Jesus, at the end of the day, it's full of guys and leaders as well, leaders of men. And you couldn't ask for anything better than what's going on here. I didn't record this part of the clip, but basically Chris Conley said, like, look, in this NFL world, what you did last season, all the negativity, things of that nature, like that's going to come no matter what. There's nothing you can do, but you still go where the business is and you come in and do your job and you compete every day. And that's what we're building here in Houston. I thought that was about as good of an answer as you could probably ever get from a player. And it seemed to be very authentic and genuine. And Desmond King, Kirksey, if we're looking at Easton, which is like great. So we're going to have a center battle, which has been needed. They're going to have guard battle. Like that's how you field a good team, is by competing in training camp for the whole 9 weeks until the season starts. And I love what they're doing. I really do. I think it's, that was the biggest issue with the Bill O'Brien era, was he had his guys. There was no competition. It was, they had their roles, they had their spots, and they played. Now it's like, no, that's not the case. You either are good enough to get on the field or you don't play.
These are the type of moves that when we had a strong star core, when we had the J.J. Watts, the Hopkins, when we definitely had Deshaun still and the Will Fullers, these are the type of moves that we need a GM out there making. Mm-hmm. Like these are literally, I mean, they're singles. I know he said he was going to try and do singles and doubles, but there's not a lot of doubles. But these are safe NFL players. Now there's a couple of guys out there that are really good. I don't want to take anything away from them. But for the most part, like this is just a very solid roster burn, or a way to churn the roster, get some actual NFL talent onto the team, even though there's a player that I'm surprised is coming back. But, it's not a bad job. Like I really have to say it for Nick Caserio. I mean, it's like nobody told him that if Deshaun's not our quarterback, we should be tanking. So now we're going to have a team that's competitive, probably annoyingly so, because we're actually going to want a better draft pick the following year. Vernon Hargraves, why is he coming back?
Depth. I don't think he makes the final 53 roster, honestly. I mean, I think the most he's going to get the $2 million. Like his deal counts $2 million against the cap until he's cut, just because of the way the incentives are structured. They're, what are they? LTBEs, likely to be earns. Shout out to Texans cap Troy for teaching me that one this week. So I don't think he makes the final 53. I think that was just kind of a guy that they brought in. I mean, the corners that they've got between Roby and was it Desmond King and these other guys that they've brought in, they've got some, some of these guys that I didn't ever expect to end up here, and they're here. So I like it. I mean, I really do. I think that this team can surprise a lot of people next year. I'm not saying they're going to, make a deep run into the playoffs or anything like that. But I think they're going to make a little bit of noise.
We're going to be better than we should be, which is going to be annoying. But it might it'll make watching the season less painful.
Yep.
But
it'll make it fun.
And at the same time, we're just going to sit there and we're not going to make the playoffs. And towards the end of the season, we're just going to be kind of like, well, we should have had a better draft pick. That's what it's going to be. But during the
What do you-
season, we always want to win. So
I honestly, if we do end up trading Deshaun, I still don't see us taking a quarterback this year. I can't. I can't. Not. It's not even about Tyrod. It's just more the fact that you don't want to waste a year of that rookie deal. And this roster still, while it is on a major overhaul and it looks a lot better, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to waste a year of a rookie on this year and potentially next year. I think you probably wait till next year to draft a quarterback, get through this rebuild, get your cap cleared up, which is going to happen after this year, given the signings and the move on from like Whitney and Murray and Cobb and things of that nature. So I think Nick's put us in an extremely good place to be able to. Honestly, I'll say it. I couldn't imagine a better general manager coming in and doing what has been done. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, he hasn't done anything. That's fine. What he's doing is getting us through this season, and then he'll start. And all these deals make a ton of sense. The Desmond King signing, like that's a position of need and a guy that has the potential to be a number one cornerback. And that could be in the future. So you could resign him next year. There's just lots of moves that he's making that could really pay off in the future. And I don't know if there's another general manager that could have came in here and done what Nick's doing. He's rebuilding the culture, overhauling the roster, and the only issue is we don't have Deshaun. So we really, we know we're not going to be competitive, or we're not going to be, we probably won't make the playoffs. We're not going to win the AFC South. I think the Colts will probably do that. But at the end of the day, like, we're going to be, a 6-10 team, a 7-9 team, whatever it would be. But I think the games will be a lot more fun. And I think ultimately, they'll be competitive. And I think that's all we're really looking for this year. You lose your starting quarterback, who's a top 5 quarterback in the league. The chances of you being competitive are pretty slim in this league.
Well, and
my only complaint is a lot of these guys are on the older side. Like, I think Nick C has actually done a great job of putting together a team that's going to be competitive next year. But it's the same sort of complaint that I had during the season. We weren't going out and going to get like high ceiling younger guys. We're going out. Too many of these guys are in their 30s. Like, this is what you need to be competitive next year, but it doesn't really build towards your future. Which, I mean, they're all 1-year deals, so it doesn't really matter too much. But that's the only complaint that I kind of sort of have.
I think one thing that a lot of people aren't really realizing is because of the length of these contracts, a lot of these guys, they're not banking on being here long term. And I think a lot of them are going to come out here and they're going to play their ass off to the point to where hopefully next year, if the cap does go back up, they can hit the market again and earn that last little bit of a payday before their career's up. And so I think we're going to see, we may see Philip Lindsay just go out here and just kill it. We may see guys, the secondary guys that they brought in, some of these linebackers and stuff like that, just come out here and absolutely light the field up, and then leave. And I don't hate that idea, right? I mean, they may have a high roster turnover again next season, but they could also cash in on a lot of these comp picks. They may end up retaining some of these guys. If they retain Philip Lindsay next year, awesome. I mean, I like what he did in Denver. I think he's a really good running back in the NFL. I think he's got a ton of potential. So the way I see it playing out is, like James said, I don't see them taking a quarterback if they can land the 3rd overall pick, unless Zach is sitting there in their face. Because of the fact that if they get the 3rd overall pick, Tua is likely coming back in that package. So they'd have Tua, Tyrod, and the kid they just got from
and Devontae Smith.
Who's the kid they just got from the Bengals? Ryan Finley. Yeah, the guy that beat the Steelers, right? So I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to kind of see how everything shakes out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Nick's done a wonderful job. The running back room is completely different. A lot of people are upset about David. I think really for that was more of like a, hey, here you go, David. Like, let me do you a solid because we're gonna have the cap space and we're just gonna do right by you because you went through the NFL's worst trade in the history of the NFL. And if we cut you, you're gonna get destroyed. We're gonna get destroyed. So here's just kind of like a good bidding on our end. But like the running back room with Ingram, Lindsey, and David. Everybody could say what they want about David, but as a receiving back, he was great last year. The last 2 weeks of the season, he was really good, a very decisive runner. They're going to switch to a power scheme, it looks like, with the guys that they're bringing in, which is ideal to all three running backs. And it just makes a ton of sense. So, and then you put Tyrod Taylor in that Lamar Jackson type role with the Ravens offense. Is he Lamar Jackson? Obviously not. I think, how old is Tyrod Taylor? He's like 31 now, 32, something like that. So, he's obviously not the guy that he used to be, but you can win with him. And then when you support him with all those running backs, a better offensive line, which it will be a better offensive line. The weapons are still there. You still have Cooks, you still have Cobb, you still have Kiki. Isaiah Coulter will be in his second year. Andre Roberts, Chris Conley. So there's yeah, I think they will.
That hurt.
Yeah, that hurt a lot of people.
That's the only bad move Nick has made.
The only thing is did Deshaun make Chad, or
who cares, man?
We really don't know. But I do think that there's a chance for this offense to be somewhat fun and enjoyable. Really, the biggest issue is defense for me. Still, I want to see it all put together, because that's what killed this team last year, and a lot of it had to do with coaching.
Yeah,
and I mean, we complained on here that the Texans were going to have to re-sign an entire defense, and it was kind of a joke, but Nick really did it.
He did it just in linebackers. He's got enough to field 11 linebackers right now. It's
I know.
Ridiculous. But I mean, one thing I didn't talk about is the Shaq Lawson thing, like getting McKinney out of here. Yeah, I mean, that was an excellent move. They need help on the defensive line, and he's not putting up 15, 20 sacks a season. But if he's getting 7 or 8, if you've got 4 guys up the front getting 7 or 8 sacks a season, that's good. That's a decent defense. That takes a lot of pressure off your secondary. It kind of hides some of the flaws that they may have if you've got Vernon Hargraves out there starting. Or if they can just at least put pressure on the quarterback and make him uncomfortable and make him make some bad decisions in the pocket, then things will work out. I'm kind of interested to see how Lovie Smith puts all that together. I really am. So.
Yeah, our defense should be substantially better next year, and it's just one of those things that, regardless of what you think about Nick Caserio, if we had had him 2 years ago when we originally went to get him, our roster would be in such a better spot now. Like, that's what he's proven. That's what he's absolutely proven. Brandon would still have Bill O'Brien as that coach, but that's neither here nor there, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if they're playing better, then who really cares at the end of the day, right? So
right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know really what else to say about the roster. I think the roster is in a better place than what it was at. A good coaching staff. I'm really liking the hire of Coley as of right now, and I'm kind of seeing the vision for what they envisioned for Coley was really to truly be that CEO, head coach, manages his coordinators, manages everybody else within it. And just kind of lets them do their thing, lets the young coaches come in, implement their game plans, gives them his opinion and things that they may need to change. But outside of that, they're going to kind of run with it. And ideally, that's what all we wanted from Bill O'Brien, was for him to kind of take a step back, let his guys be them. And then, we had an opportunity. It's too bad we won't be able to see it with Deshaun, because, I really think that him and Tim were cooking with a ton of gas at the end of the season, and the addition of Pep Hamilton, I thought this really could have had an opportunity to really be something special on offense. But ultimately, I think what they're putting together is, a rebuild year that we have to get through, and it kind of is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's just credit to Nick C. Like, this is going to be a painful year, but for a rebuilding year, for a cap clearing year, for kind of like that hard reset. But he got guys in that's going to make it less than miserable. We're not going to be the most incompetent team out on the field. And this is even with me projecting without having Deshaun Watson as our quarterback. Whereas last year we had Deshaun and the most incompetent team out on the field. So that's what's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah. I think the worst part of this year is going to be not seeing number 4 at quarterback. No matter what comes out of all of this, that's going to be the part that people are going to have and fans are going to have a real hard time fathoming, is the fact that you don't have Deshaun Watson under center for the next 10 years. And the fact that they knew in January is very telling, because it really kind of lays out the whole situation from front to back now, right? They found out in January. He was a part of conversations to be involved, finds out conversations about being involved at that point are kind of early dismissed. He's not involved. They hire Nick. They go with who they want to with head coach. And it's all kind of taken off since then.
Yeah, no, the team knew about the initial accuser, the volume that has come forward since that has caught them off guard. That has caught the team off guard. That's caught the league off guard. The league knew about the initial one as well. So the Texans did their due diligence in informing the league that something had happened. There was communication there. So this whole thing that the team and Watson hadn't spoken in months was completely preposterous, because they had this going on behind the scenes, and but they did a really good job of keeping it quiet. But I won't completely close the door on him playing for this team again. There is a slight chance, there's a very small chance that he still plays here, depending on how things shake out legally for him. And I still understand that Nick does not want to trade him. Nick is still very adamant that he does not want to trade him, regardless of what other people are saying. I know John McClain is saying that he expects him to be traded and everything like that. John is talking to Cal, and Cal alone. Jack does not have Nick's ear. Nick does not speak to John. Nick speaks to NFL Network, and I don't know if anybody has picked up on that yet. That Rappaport, Palmer, Garofalo, those guys are the first ones to get any of the information coming out of Houston, because that is where Nick funnels it.
It's Ian and Tom Pellisario that talk specifically to Nick.
Yeah, 100%. I have a feeling Jack is speaking to people maybe on both sides, on ESPN and NFL Network,
and locally.
Yeah, but that it is what it is. Jack is still involved in everything. He's not making the final decision, so that is definitely Nick's doing. Nick is the one making the final call on all of this stuff. But John is very disconnected right now. He's had a really long, respectable run.
Use his last name, because whenever you say John, when you're talking about John McClain,
John McClain.
Kind of hurts my feelings.
Not
sometimes.
John Wade. John McClain is very disconnected, I feel. I don't think he has a whole lot of, if you've paid attention over the last week, he has broken 0 signings. 0. That should tell you everything right now that you need to know.
I can tell you who's breaking every single one. If you guys are paying attention, you guys will know exactly where it's coming from. So yeah, it's all there. It's all
Aaron
there.
Wilson. Aaron Wilson has done a killer job over the past week.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Aaron's been spot on everything, and he's beaten everybody.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a few, some of the national guys have gotten one from an agent here or there, but Aaron was right on their tail. He's done a really good job, and he's been covering college kids too. So I think Aaron's been, he's been working his tail off this whole week. And so shout out to Aaron Wilson for kicking ass this week and making Houston media look good.
I agree.
And dealing with the Deshaun thing. So, there's an outside chance that Deshaun plays for the Texans again, but
here's the thing. I think if somehow, some way they can clear it up, this guy's going to be on a mission to show. Look, winning cures all, no matter what. I went through this with Kobe. I remember exactly how it felt. I remember exactly what my gut and everything inside me felt. It was awful. It was one of the worst feelings as a fan I could ever fucking experience. But he went out there and he delivered. Yeah. And he didn't rape anybody, or at least in my opinion, he didn't rape anybody. And if Deshaun does that and comes out and, if he's just a horny 25-year-old kid, which I don't know how you guys were when you were 25, but, that's just kind of comes with the nature of being a man, I guess. I don't know, but that doesn't excuse him. I don't mean to say it like that. I'm just saying I think he likes to entertain and have conversations with ladies.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what if that's at the end of the day, if that's what it all boils down to, is just that he's looking for that, and that's what was going on. That's his business. I don't care how he gets it. That's none of my business. And as a father of both a boy and a girl, I'm torn on this, right? Like, as a father of a son, if his name was being dragged through the mud and these type of things. Being accused of this stuff, obviously I would want the truth to come to light. And if he's guilty, he needs to serve the punishment. If he's not, then the other party needs to serve the punishment. But as a father of a daughter also, that's my absolute worst nightmare, is to hear that story ever come across and, it happened to her. And I would want the person that did those vile things to be held accountable. And to pay that price. But also I would be severely disappointed and very, 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 very angry if she ever fabricated a story like that. So it's a very tough spot to be in. And I hope the truth comes out, and I hope that eventually everybody can put this behind them and we can move forward as not only as a fan base, but as a city, with everything that's happened this past year in sports. And I know Houston fans have been through a lot with the Harden stuff and Russell Westbrook and the Astros and losing Springer and stuff like that. I've had my fair share over the years with Boston and losing Mookie Betts recently from the Red Sox. And so it's been a shitty few years for everybody.
Yeah, so. I agree. Ultimately, at the end of the day, however this plays out, the guilty party is the guilty party, and the guilty party should pay for what happens. And as of right now, it's all speculation. The only people that know as of right now who's guilty and who's not is Deshaun and the masseuses and Bernie a little bit, because
the former strippers, you mean?
Yes, and the former strippers / masseuses. But I don't know. I talked to 3, and they've given them massages for 3 years, and they say, and one of them's a beautiful woman. And
James, here's the problem: you talked to 3.
That's fine. But
that's kind of like the ongoing problem. Like,
it's not though. And I don't understand that logic. Anybody can say anything, John. Anybody can say anything.
He has all the resources in the world. The resources in the world.
Uh-huh.
You should be going to professionals, not messing around with Instagram masseuses.
Wait, but who labeled them masseuses, John? Him?
Apparently they did.
No. Him or them?
Busby.
Correct. So you're saying masseuses because that's what's in the court filing. They're not on Instagram as masseuses, John. I know that you don't roll in that world very often, but when it comes to friends and things I've seen, they're not masseuses. They're working girls.
And you know what? You would be better off if they were.
Well, don't be surprised when that comes out. Because that's what these kids do. They reach out to Instagram and they hook up. That's just the way it is. That's the world we live in, bro. Yep. So masseuses should not be used. That probably should all be. If you're not fucking licensed, you're not a masseuse. Sorry, yeah, I'm not a masseuse. I rub my wife's back all the time when she wants her back rubbed. I don't ever the next day go to work be like, oh yeah, you know what? Just found out I'm a masseuse. I rubbed my wife's back last night.
You're not wrong, but you shouldn't be going out on Instagram looking for massages.
You're right. You're absolutely 100% right. Like the way he went about this whole thing.
That's the part.
Wrong.
That's the part.
I do not disagree there at all. I think he went about this completely wrong. He's a horn dog, and he did it the wrong way.
Well, I mean, I have absolutely no problems with him being a horn dog. Go look at go read like what Jim Kelly did when he was in Houston. Like and the reason that's on my mind is read the book about the USFL. Like I had no idea just how crazy Jim Kelly was back in the day. Like it's the same sort of shit.
And
like
Jim
that
McMahon,
happens. And Jim McMahon, like it's the same. So it's always happening as professional football players. It's always going to happen. The problem was the type he's going into those massages with that expectation. That was what the problem was.
I don't think he's the only one going in there with that expectation, though.
I mean,
Because
exactly. That's the part that
some of these girls are not strictly to massage. They're there for the extracurricular activity, right? And they have been linked to athletes across the board from other sports. They have been linked to rappers. I mean, there's going to be a lot of the stuff that comes out eventually when the process plays out that I think we could talk about this offline, but it's gonna shock some people, and it's gonna kind of open some people's eyes to what's really happening in that scene, and it'll definitely take some of the pressure off of Deshaun.
And it's going to change the landscape of the way that athletes and rappers and all of this go about this, because this is a part of the culture, and that's the part that people seem to be missing. This is a part of the culture. This is this is them meeting women through Instagram. Hey, I'm a high profile guy. You're a high profile influencer or IG model or whatever it would be. Like these are the conversations that are had. It's documented. It happens all the time. It's a cultural thing.
Yep, unfortunately. So, but I got to run, fellas. It was great to be back, to stop in and say hi. I can't say I'm back because I'm not, but
well, you can't say that and then come. Everybody's going to start pointing out all these things like they did. Like, well, you're back. Oh, what's this? And then all the news and all that stuff. What are you doing? I thought you weren't getting into that.
Let's be real. It stopped. Okay. For a very, very long time, I have definitely dialed it back a lot. Okay. And I'm in a much better place than I was a few months ago. I feel a lot less stress in my life, and I'm happier. So I think I won't be on here all the time. I'm always accessible on Twitter, but there's no Instagram, there's no Facebook stuff for me anymore. I've dialed it back a lot. So
yeah. Definitely don't blame you because the shit sucks. The shit just sucks right now.
I miss Swan. I miss everybody, but
yeah,
I miss interacting with Swan. I love talking to her. She's my favorite person to talk to about Texans. She's the greatest. But you can't disagree with her because if you do, you're wrong. But outside of that, but she's awesome and she always brings up good points. But no, I agree. Look, things are crazy. Training camp's ramping back up. I'm getting back into that as well, and we'll be back to normal here shortly. But just wanted to come on here and have some conversations about some of the things that were happening. Give you guys my opinion, and again, just my opinion, just Pat's opinion, just John's opinion. None of us are lawyers. None of us have a degree in law. We can only speak on experiences that we've either seen or heard secondhand from people close to certain people, and that's really it. So that's it. And I think we just said what a lot of the radio hosts and national media are kind of scared to say. They're scared to give you guys the two different opinions and their thoughts because they have something to protect. And for us, we fucking don't. So we get to fucking roll up our sleeves and just say what the fuck we want. Yeah,
that's another thing. If you notice that ESPN has barely touched this and the NFL Network has skirted by it and briefly talked about it, and that's it. They don't want to touch this. They don't want that type of energy until more of the facts come to light. And I think that's how we all got to play it. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully we get more information from Deshaun's camp this week.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some more coming out, and I'm looking forward to it for sure. I'm tired
Word.
of reading court filings.
Oh God, me too. I haven't read the 2 new ones. I just don't care to.
I
They're all
read
copy
all of them.
and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, and then change a little bit. But John, what else you got?
I think that's it. We're at an hour and 10, so that's plenty of pod.
Sweet, cool. Well, you guys all have a great week. Good to talk to my boys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Glad that I could talk to you guys. I'll be back on Twitter. Yes, Matt. Probably in I don't know, right around training camp. I'll probably get my password back and my account back. But outside of that, guys, I'm Young Ari Gold signing off for Texans Unfiltered. We'll catch you guys next week.